all my life, it was all about you can achieve anything in life if you believe in yourself. So that's part of it. Part of it too was when I was encouraging my company. This is the second company I had to think big. I rode an 8,000-pound elephant into my annual meeting. And the message was, if you think big and act big, you will be big. Let's do $1 billion. And it took a while. It took 7 years to reach $1 billion from the point I rode that elephant into the room. And the year I sold the business, we did $1.6 billion.
Welcome to the Habits to Goals podcast with Martin Grunberg. It's time to take control of your life. Are you ready to achieve goals faster and more consistently than ever before? You need the Habit Factor. You're listening to Habits to Goals, the podcast that helps you create the habits that lead to success. And here is Martin Grunberg.
All righty, here we go. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Martin Grunberg. You have reached Habits to Goals. This is the only podcast that consistently reminds you it is the habits you craft on a day-to-day basis that are going to lead you towards your goals. Today's guest, I cannot think of a better way to kick off season 5. We have a phenomenal entrepreneur, a best-selling author, a philanthropist, and just an all-around amazing man. Not to mention, and I've lost count, multi-time Ironman triathlete. We have Mark Moses in the house. Technically, he's on the line. How you doing, Mark?
All good. Thanks for having me.
It's a pleasure to have you, and it's an honor to have you. I have the good fortune of following you on Facebook, and between you and Jack, you and Jack Daly, I am exhausted. I cannot keep up. It seems to me that you have been, I don't know, to Italy or Europe 3 times in the last 2 months or something. So I'm guessing things are pretty good. We like to kick off the show, Mark, with something called the GTR, which is the Good Things Report. So you can kick it off or you can defer to me.
Well, I'm happy to kick that off because you're right. I have been to Europe a little bit. We just got back from the coolest trip. And we just got back a few days ago. We took our leadership team and their spouses to Tuscany, and we got a beautiful villa in Tuscany. And we just had great bonding, some great chats, and some great fun together. It was awesome. And then I went off to Ibiza to celebrate with my clients that just sold their business for over $500 million. And so, that was super, super fun. Ibiza's fun, and spending it with those guys was absolutely awesome.
Is that a company you can disclose or not? I'm just curious.
Oh, sure. The press releases have been put out. It was the company's called Task Us, and the founders are Bryce Maddock and Jasper Weir, and they're super guys that built an amazing business, and we sold it to Blackstone. So it is really awesome.
And is that like task.us?
It's Task Us. One word.
Okay, I was just wondering if it was .com or some people play with the extension, and I thought it might be task.us. So, but it's taskus.com?
Yes. Yeah.
Copy. So, in the open, and I'll get to my GTR in a second. What I mentioned the best-selling book. What I didn't mention is Mark's company is CEO Coaching International. I did mention he's a phenomenal entrepreneur. I didn't mention that by name. So we're going to get into the book. we're going to get into a bit of CEO Coaching International. That is a phenomenal case study. And it sounds like, in fact, I think I saw some of that on Facebook where these guys were praising you, saying something like they couldn't have done it without you. So I'm guessing that feels good. And a little trip to Italy or to, I'm guessing also feels good. So beautiful. My GTR, I want to say the surf session I had earlier, but that's not it. I don't know what the past tense of skydove.
Wow, good for you. Wow.
Is it skydived?
Man, you're asking this Canadian here from a small town to do an English correction. I don't know.
All right. Well, yeah. So I don't know if it's skydived or skydove, but yeah, 2 weeks ago, a little team building on our end. We jumped out of a freaking plane and it was insane. And it's probably going to end up as an episode here on Habits to Goals. So you may not know, but once a week we do the interviews, and the other 2 days I'm either answering a question or I'm doing what's called a mind bullet. So there were a few mind bullets that came out of launching myself out of a plane at 13,000 plus feet. All right, we got the open out of the way, Mark, and I think the listener is already getting a fantastic sense of what an amazing man you are. So let's bring it back home. I think you just mentioned Canada, where you went to high school. Just give us the cursory overview of growing up life as Mark Moses.
Well, thanks. I grew up in a small town called Sudbury, which is 4 or 5 hours north of Toronto, depending on what snowstorm we were dealing with. And man, I growing up, I just kept watching movies that were out of Hollywood and out of California. And I had this in the back of my mind, this dream that someday I wanted to live in California. And then I went to college. I went to Wilfrid Laurier University in Waterloo and studied business.
Wow.
And my dad had gone bankrupt in my last year of high school, and I needed to make money, and my fun lifeguarding job just wasn't enough money to support paying for my own college. So I saw a sign in the career center that said, be your own boss, start your own business. And I became a franchisee for student painters.
Another one.
Yeah. So it was an amazing experience, amazing learning. And in the first summer I did $70,000 worth of business and made $18,000. The second summer I did $120,000 worth of business and made $35,000. Going to school in Canada is not expensive. Back then it was $4,500 a year all in. That included room, board, the food, tuition, books, everything. So I felt like a rock star with all this extra money. I could buy a cool car and a 1979 Camaro, and it was just great. And when I graduated, I packed up my U-Haul, drove south till I hit Texas, turned right till I hit California, and I started the business called Student Painters in California, built it to 250 locations, 3,000 people, and then sold it when I was 26. So that's a beginning to my journey of getting into business and entrepreneurship.
So the college student painter, you in my mind, my memory, my recollection, we've had, I think, 4 different people we've interviewed that come off this this tree, this college student painter tree, and it's phenomenal. So why is it? Because there may be some new listeners. I want you to share some of those fundamentals that were so beneficial to you in your business career.
It's really interesting. When I do speaking engagements around the world, and if I ask the audience, especially in the U.S. or Canada. How many people have done that? You always get hands. And if you have an audience of about 500 entrepreneurs, you might get 8 or 10 hands that have done this before. So it's really remarkable.
It is.
So number one, it's really hard. You don't know anything about painting or the painting business. You got to knock on doors to get business. So that's like, you talk about learning to cold call, and if you don't have any charm, you better learn it quick.
Right.
You got to hire your own people. You have to teach them how to paint, and you don't even know how to paint, and how to prepare a house, how to deal with customers that are upset, how to meet timelines and schedules and A to B. It is just a crash course on learning how to run a business. Like, none of us cared about being painters. Like, that was the last thing on our mind. We cared about learning how to run a business.
Right.
And that's what we learned.
Yeah. And I'm guessing it's, I saw this article, I don't know, I think it was in Inc. or something, and it was via Mark Cuban, but he was like, ultimately, his statement was, look, I could lose everything tomorrow, and I could pick myself back up, and I'm sure I could be a multimillionaire again. And he wasn't being arrogant, but he boiled it down to selling. And he's like, and selling isn't necessarily, the hard pushing of shit people don't need. It's being able to communicate and demonstrate value and all these things. And I thought it was such a fascinating article. And the guys I know really well who have done well out of college painters, time and again, they're great communicators. They're great sales guys. So.
Well, you know what? I would tell you that it taught me tenacity, grit, and self-reliance and resilience and determination and not giving up when stuff is hard. So, look, I've been broke. I've had money. I've had a lot of it and lost it all.
Right.
And had to. So what you're talking about, Mark Cuban, I've done that. I get it. I didn't like it, but had the resilience and grit to rebuild.
I love it. And the self-reliance, the fact, and the resourcefulness, the idea that it's within me and my resources to find a way out. So I love it. I just saw a great grit quote from the gal who wrote Grit. And she said, and this might be a nice segue into our next topic, but she said, enthusiasm, and I don't know if you've heard this, I love it. Enthusiasm is common. Endurance is rare. And I was like, I love that quote, man. So
yeah, that's good. Let me make another point.
Please do.
I got these kids. One is 19 and one is 17, and they've heard this drumbeat from me for years.
Right.
In this entitled generation.
Yep.
It's there's no greater gift I can give you as my kids than the gift of self-reliance. If I teach you anything, if I can teach you how to fend for yourself, I think I've done my job as a parent. Now, there's other things I probably want to do too, but that is the drumbeat you would hear from my kids.
Well, I love it. And I'm not far behind you there. I got in a month, we're looking at 18 and 16. And yeah, I'm sure we're cut from the same cloth. It's the same message. And yeah, I love it. Fantastic. So let's pick that up, because I touched on the philanthropist and the Ironman, and I definitely want to get into the book. There's too much to cover, and we're on a tight timeline. But talk about what led you into specifically doing the Ironman and the if you're okay with bringing it up, I think the Mason story is compelling, obviously, from several different angles. And if, again, you can share it, I think it would be fantastic for the listener.
Yeah. So my son Mason, when he was 3 years old, was, it happened suddenly. We went in for a test and we're in the ambulance And then Mason was diagnosed with a brain tumor and had brain tumor surgery the next day. And then he couldn't walk anymore after that for several weeks, and then had complications and had water on the brain, and then had another brain surgery. So it was just, you're going on with normal life, and then boom, it hits you, and you're in it, and you're dealing with it, whether you want to or not. So that was when Mason was 3, and today he's 17. And so he's had an amazing recovery. The first, 5 years were, first year and a half was quite intense. It got better and better and better. And when Mason was 11, he did his first half marathon to support another buddy of mine that was going through cancer.
Wow.
And when he was 14, I asked Mason if he wanted to do a marathon with me. And
not just any marathon.
Yeah, I said, choose anyone you want, anywhere in the world. And he chose Antarctica. Like, there's maybe the brain tumor affected his brain, because why would anybody do that?
Right.
And I'm sure he thought that too when we were down there sleeping in a tent.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, at 14, that is, look, he had been through so much. So I guess in the scheme of things, it's nothing. But what a fantastic, incredible experience. And you did that with Jack Daly as well, right?
Absolutely. The three of us shared a tent together.
That's what I thought. What an amazing, but going back to, and this is what hit home for me in your book, the idea that as an entrepreneur or CEO or, as a leader, you think you begin to fall into this illusion or delusion that you can control. And it's incredible. You actually begin to think you can control everything. And there you are, and you see your son going through this. And as you write about, it's a challenge for the marriage, and then it's a challenge for you. And talk a bit about how you mentally worked your way through that.
Yeah, it's a great point. Fortunately, we have such great friends, and that were so supportive when we were going through that. And my wife and I are different in that I'm a no-nonsense to-do list guy. And so I just wanted to know, what do we need to do next? What needs to be on the list? Rank it in order, and just let's get the list knocked out. And, hey, Doc, anything else we need to do? And my wife was highly emotional. And, I would say there's a place for both of those things.
Right.
But it was challenging. Fortunately, we've been married 22 years and have a terrific relationship and marriage, but it can strain a marriage going through something, especially when there's a lot of uncertainty in. They told us there'd be 50-50 chance initially.
Right.
I don't like that. I don't like that math.
You're right.
And so I can understand the high emotion, uncertainty, and my wife's point of view, and me, I'm just, what can I do to impact this? And frankly, there wasn't that much I could do.
Yeah, there was nothing you could do directly, but I thought what was so captivating to me was what you could do indirectly, and the fact that you found a way to spin it not only into your incentive to do your first Ironman and raise, $100+ grand for Children's Hospital, but then talk about, which is phenomenal, and the fact that you did an Ironman for your first time, but talk about when I think you were president of YPO, and you did a YPO event where you brought the guys and gals, the leaders, into the hospital. Set that up.
Yeah, that was wild. I would say that might have been the most intense event I have ever been to. we did a live brain tumor surgery live.
That's insane.
In front of our whole chapter with spouses. So imagine if something went wrong, having all those witnesses in the room. I cannot believe we were able to pull this off and did this. And the docs had camera in the room and a camera on his head so we could see what he was seeing.
Oh, Jesus. Wow.
And he was mic'd and was talking to us as what he was like, back and forth communication. And we didn't want to distract him because it's like, hey, man, just focus on what you're doing. We'll be fine just sitting here in the gallery watching this, right? It was an outrageous event. The CEO of the hospital sitting next to me, holding my hand,
goodness.
Oh, my God, I will never do this again. This is insane. So that was a one and done.
That's totally insane. And the line that gripped me was something about, again, the mentality of the CEO. If these guys have, $100 million businesses or what, even 10 million, and they got 100 employees, they usually have something to say about something. I know these people too well. And all right, a quick timeout. Thank you very much. I hope you are digging this interview. I wanted to share with you really quickly. I just sent out one email last week. Well, depending on when you're listening, the point is we're doing a free course. The response has been overwhelming. 35, 38, I think people are now piling in. This is a free course only until 11/16. It's called Get Unstuck. If you're feeling stuck, that is not the problem. The question is, how are you going to respond? We all know some people who do nothing, and a year turns into 2 years, and tragically decades. It's almost like being boiled like that frog by 1 degree without ever knowing, boiled to death. Don't be that frog. Don't be that guy, that gal. Check it out. It's free again till 11/16. It talks you and walks you through step by step the habit factor methodology, the PAR methodology, plan, act, record, reassess. It is the proven process to get you unstuck, headed where it is you want to be going. If you go to the Habit Factor site or the podcast site, or even look at the liner notes from this episode, we will hang a link to this course. Get it while it's free. After 11/16, it will not be free. Get after it. Thank you. Let's get back to this great interview. Peace. You said it was completely silent, like everybody was just dead silent.
Yeah, at one point the doc said, "Hey, Mark, you guys all still there?" It's like, yeah, we're here. You just do your thing. It was just riveting.
So,
and the young gal who's 12 years old had a full recovery. Amazing. So cool. So cool.
Yeah, that's where I was going. So she turns out well. Tell us quickly, because we got to move on, but as quick as you can anyways. You were already doing triathlons, I think, but you're like, damn it, I'm going to go big. And this is a nice segue into the book, right? You're like, I'm going to go big. I'm going to go for the full Ironman. And if you're listening and you don't know what that is, I have also had the joy of doing this. It's 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike, and a 26.2 mile run. So talk about that switch for you there.
Yeah, I wanted to raise money for the hospital. I was already into sprinting, Olympic distance tries.
Right.
And so I thought, what an amazing opportunity to give back and then pursue a dream to do an Ironman. So it's crazy. I did one, and then hard to believe that I ended up doing 12 of them so far.
Well, and you're fast as stuff. So dude, that's just amazing. All right. So I just said it. It slipped out, but it's a perfect segue. You decided to go big, and Mark's great book is called Make Big Happen. Why that title? And by the way, before you answer that, his subtitle is How to Live, Work, and Give Big. So again, it's Make Big Happen, listener. How to Live, Work, and Give Big. How'd you decide on that title?
All my life, it was all about you can achieve anything in life if you believe in yourself. So that's part of it. Part of it, too, was when I was encouraging my company. This is the second company I had to think big. I rode an 8,000-pound elephant into my annual meeting. And the message was, if you think big and act big, you will be big. Let's do $1 billion. And it took a while. It took 7 years to reach $1 billion from the point I rode that elephant into the room. And the year I sold the business, we did $1.6 billion. So that's how we got to the title of let's not dream about it. Let's do it. Let's make big happen. Let's not hope to make big happen. So the book's based on 4 questions, and they're simple.
Right.
What do you want? How do you get what you want? What's going to get in the way? And how do you hold yourself accountable? So I think it's a great read, even though I'm tired of reading it because when you write a book.
Well, you're probably not reading it a lot, but I'll tell you what, the book is great. And the 4 questions, if you're not paying attention, listener, honestly, they're easy to, because they're so simple. It's easy to kind of glaze over them and think, I've heard that before. But writing them down and answering them in written form becomes transformative. And say those 4 questions again, slowly.
Question
Please.
Number 1.
Yes.
What do you want?
What do you want? What is it you want? All right, go ahead.
and look, most people don't really know. Even people that have their own businesses. I'll say we have this tool called the crystal ball exercise.
Right.
And so you wake up a year from now, and we're here together. We're celebrating big because you achieved what? It's a hard question for a lot of people to answer. Question number 2. How do you get what you want? Well, and so if I were to break that down,
right.
What are the specific and measurable activities that I can keep score on that will lead me to the outcome that I want? Number 3, what's going to get in the way? And there are a lot of things that can get in the way, and it's usually ourselves.
Bingo, right.
And number 4, what's our process to hold ourselves accountable to achieve what we want?
No, it's beautiful. And look, it's taken a while to get you on the show, but from my perspective, and you know this, the Habit Factor is both a book and it's a tracking app, and a lot of coaches use it, a lot of CEOs use it, just a lot of achievers use it because it's the process to hold yourself accountable. You're tracking core related behaviors. You're tracking habits. And so, working your way, or my way from the bottom up, I just love that component. And then going to the top, just going to ask this one question and we'll move on. Why is it so hard for people to do? I'm just looking for your opinion, your take. Why do you think it's so hard for people to do the crystal ball exercise?
I think it's difficult. It's a great question. I think it's difficult for people to drill down on the 1 or 2 activities, and activities not an outcome, the activity that will lead them to the outcome that they want. And I remember one of my clients, I had 24 goals for the year. Like 24. And I drew the line at number 3. Like rank them in order, and we picked 3. Right. And let's figure out what are the specific activities that'll lead us to achieve those outcomes. And then we did. We went from minus $8.5 million in EBITDA to $29 million in EBITDA in 39 months. So it's by focusing on the few things, I believe less is more. Focus on the few things and the few activities that will drive the outcome that you want, and you will get what you want. Now, why don't many do? They got blind spots. They can't delegate or don't want to delegate. They're control freaks. They're chasing shiny new objects.
What about
their own story?
Yeah, and I think, I think all those apply. And then there's there's this psychological aspect, like whether it's fear or something related to what if it did come true, like what does that mean? Then I got a whole different bag in reality, and maybe it's not as good as I'm just saying. And I see that all the time. There's psychological attachments to that I think makes that exercise difficult as well.
Martin, I would tell you this. Look, we coach 170 firms and CEOs around the world, and if we drill down to what I've learned as the coach, we're part coach, we're part consultant,
part psychologist,
and part therapist, right? Because when you mention fear, like it's an interesting animal, right? It's like the fear and courage kind of go together, right? And so we have to help our clients when they're going through that period of uncertainty or fear or lack the courage to gain the confidence to execute when they're fearful about what will happen if.
Right. Uncertainty. All right. Well, look, I mean, there's so much good here and good info, and your expertise is fairly unparalleled, but we're going to keep moving. So, as a creator, a thought leader, a leader in general, and we touched on some of this earlier, but how do you battle through tough days? What's the mindset there? When everything goes sideways.
Yeah, everybody has a tough day. And look, for me, it's pretty easy. Look, I've been through really tough days and I'm not talking about Ironman, which is a pretty tough day. I'm talking about the uncertainty of my son having a brain tumor. That's a pretty tough day, right? And so, it's a tough year and longer, right? So I try to put it in perspective. A tough day. What really is a tough day? And does it really matter? Like, am I making a big deal about something that in a big scheme of life, am I going to look back at this 10 years from now and go, ooh, that was really a tough day? Or is it just a gnat? And so I think perspective. And secondly is like focus on the things that I would have control over and not worry about what I don't. So just try to think through it logically. And fortunately, I'm one of those fact-based logical thinkers. I'm not highly emotional, and which serves me well sometimes and maybe doesn't at other times. But I just like thinking through it logically and focus on what really matters.
That's fantastic. It's really, really helpful advice. So sometimes this is the word's loaded, and so I like to routinely ask guests this question, and it's just simply, how do you define success?
It's a great question. It's different for different people. So I'm going to take it from my standpoint, how do I define success?
Correct.
For me, it's living my life by design, prioritizing my time over money, quality over quantity, focus on my health and love and relationships.
This is a man, ladies and gentlemen, who's thought, he didn't just reel that off. This is a man who's thought about this question. He's thought about what success means. And even if he did rattle it off, he knew deeply internally by his values, how to answer that. So that's one of the great answers we've ever had. Beautiful. So look, you had tremendous success at a young age. I think it was just because you wanted to escape Canada. But what advice would you give your younger self, say 20-ish, knowing what you know now?
I would say to pursue my passion. And I would encourage everybody to do focus on the things and the people that increase your energy and eliminate the things and the people that deplete it. So, you know what? In my younger days, I probably spent too much time on things that weren't energizing to me. And at where I sit today, I'm only going to focus on things that are energizing me, and I'm just going to eliminate those that don't.
Brilliant. And that's a nice segue to the next question. Share with us, Mr. Moses, your top 2 or 3 habits, your positive habits that have made you the man you are today.
Get up every morning at 5 o'clock.
Wow.
Go to the gym every day or exercise every day.
And by the way, it could be 5. You don't have to stop at 3 or 2.
When I'm home, and this goes back for years,
right?
Even when I had my company, it's have dinner with my family every night.
Wow.
It's just the banter around the table with the kids as they were growing up was really cool.
That's great.
I don't know if this is now moving into habit or a ritual, but once a quarter, do a week vacation with my wife, one-on-one, even when the kids were young. It was healthy for the marriage. Now, even though those vacations have gotten a little longer now than a week and happen more frequently, I know, as you know, that I probably travel for fun too much. So that was one. Doing an annual trip with each of my kids. I started doing them with them when they were one-on-one was awesome, a great ritual.
Those are. Look, a ritual is technically a series of habits. So anything you do within a rhythm, So anyhow, that's amazing. Keep going.
Every Sunday evening at dinner time, we would have a family meeting, and we took turns, the 4 of us running the meeting. So the person that runs the meeting would set the agenda. So it's just great leadership skills for the kids, and it's just fun. And my daughter's now at the University of Michigan, and we like it when she FaceTimes in for the family meeting. Now it's just different and evolved. It really makes me smile that we've done that. And if we happen to have guests on a Sunday, we still do the family meeting at whoever's sitting at the table. So it's just a riot. Some of the just cool questions and how that all works. And the other thing that is a ritual, every January 1st, each family member on January 1st presents their goals to the family for the coming year and reviews how they did on the prior year. And then they're posted on the fridge, and anyone that's ever over at the house sees our goals up there on the fridge. So we make them visible for the world to see, so we make them happen.
That is incredible. I think I know you're probably retiring, but I think your next business is something like CEO Family International or something, because those are all great family oriented gems. All right.
You would be surprised.
Go ahead.
You'd be surprised the blend of how it all blends together, that when we're coaching, it bleeds right into the family, into life. It's mostly business, but it bleeds into a lifestyle.
Well, I'm not surprised. Occasionally I'll work with some of these people, and yeah, underlying any CEO, and I'm using air quotes, is a person. so yeah, what works at home is going to work in the office. What works at the office, I mean, there's just core related behaviors, there's habits that you got to get it right. And so those, from a family perspective, those are incredible. Just amazing. All right, with a few minutes left, what are your favorite transformative books? You could just name 1, 2, or 3.
My favorite book of all time is Good to Great by Jim Collins. I just love it, and I just love the principles in it. So I'll leave you with that one. I think it's awesome.
And a tech tool, website, app.
My favorite?
Yeah, that you can't live without.
You know what? I go to the gym every day, as I mentioned.
Yep.
I love Audible because I can just pound out books while I'm running or riding on the spin bike.
Fantastic. Leaders are readers. All right. Well, unless you have anything else, Mr. Moses, that was educational, enlightening. I know we probably went a little too quick. We can always try to wrestle you back in some future season, but I want to thank you on behalf of course, myself and the audience. Brilliant work. Thank you so much. Do you have any parting words?
Well, if your audience is mostly entrepreneurs, I'm just making that assumption. If it is, that I guess my parting thought for your listeners would be, I'll make a statement. I was speaking at the YPO GLC in the Global Leadership Conference in Singapore earlier this year, and I asked the group, how many people on your leadership team would you rate an A? And so raise your hand if everybody on your leadership team is an A. There were no hands.
Wow.
So I said, well, at least they must be they must be awesome people and living your company values.
Right.
So how many people would say that every member of their leadership team would you give an A on living the company values? No hands went up again.
Wow.
And this is like 200 people. And I'm going, oh my God. You don't rate them as an A and they're not living your values? Why are they still here? Which leads me to, is good enough? Are we settling? What I've learned from the clients of ours that have exited for over $100 million in exit value. So we've had 6 of them now. There are several more coming. The number one thing, people ask me this question all the time, what is the number one thing that enables that to happen, is the people that got you to where you are today are not the people that are going to take you and your firm where you want it to go, because at different stages of the growth, you need different people to execute that vision. Hire the best people in the world. And it's probably a whole other episode in how I do that.
Right.
But hire the best people in the world, and you will achieve what you want.
That's fantastic. And on that note, I want to make sure if there's anything in particular, like a new book or something you want to promote, Feel free to say it here. We're going to hang links off the show notes and make sure people can find you. And so with that, sir, brilliant work once again. Have a terrific day and say goodbye to the audience.
Thanks for having me. Wish you all the best.
Thank
big.
You again. Cheers. Today's episode is brought to you by Audible.com. There are over 180,000 titles to choose from. If there's one thing I know, and I think Jim Rohn was the one who said this originally, in 5 years, the difference in your life will be largely based upon two things: the books you've read and the relationships you have fostered. Doesn't it make sense to take advantage of the downtime, whether you're on the road, on a run, in the gym, kill a couple birds with one stone, get a book going? It's phenomenal. The more people I turn on to it, the more compliments I get. Not that I've actually done anything. 180,000 titles to choose from. You get one free book a month, 30% off any other book. Again, check it out. audibletrial.com/habits to goals. I'm going to say that again real quick. audibletrial.com/habits to goals. And that is the number 2. And of course, when you support our sponsors, you are supporting the show. So thank you again. I am extremely grateful. We'll see you at the next episode.